Hey guys, and welcome to Cool Vision. And in this video we're going to talk about the capital of Georgia, Tbilisi. The city is sitting on the banks of Kura River, or Mtkvari in the local dialect, with a population of 1.2 million people, 89% of which are Georgians, and other major groups are Armenians, Russians, Azerbaijanis, and others. The city has a long history that includes periods under Persian and Russian rule. No wonder the architecture is so diverse. You're going to find Eastern Orthodox churches, medieval, neoclassical, and Soviet structures. The best way to get to know Tbilisi is to start with the Old Town, with its winding cobblestone streets filled with intricate wooden balconies. It's a good place to shop for carpets, souvenirs, and local spices.
Спасибо. Вы такие гостеприимные, спасибо.
Next, you might want to come to Europe Square. There's a beautiful modern park right beside it called Reich Park. It's been a great addition to the city ever since it was finished in 2010. One thing that you wouldn't expect to see here is a monument to the 40th US President, Ronald Reagan. Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction, the quote says. It was Mikhail Saakashvili's idea, who was the third president of Georgia from 2004 to 2013. He said, quote, "Today, Reagan, who once destroyed the Soviet Union, is needed and relevant for Georgia as never before. Today, an attempt is underway to restore the Soviet Union." End quote. From here, you can take an aerial tramway that will take you to Narikala Fortress. During the Soviet times, the city had 7 different aerial tramways, but all of them closed after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Narikala Fortress is sitting on top of Mount Matatsminda and was built in the 4th century. The fortress consists of 2 walled sections on a steep hill. From here you get a magnificent view of the city. Right next to it is Mother Georgia Monument that was built in 1958. At the foothills of Narikala Fortress you'll find National Botanical Garden of Georgia. With an area of 161 hectares, or 397 acres, it's an amazing place to get away from the sun and the heat on a hot summer day. Here you'll find plants from all over the world. There's even a Japanese section. There are plenty of places to relax along the river and near the waterfall. The history of this place spans more than 3 centuries. It was first described in 1671 by a French traveler who described this place as royal gardens.
This is Tbilisi Botanical Garden. It's very beautiful. I'm not even going to say a lot because you can see it for yourself.
A couple of minutes away from here you'll find the sulfur baths. And visiting the sulfur baths in Tbilisi is a must-do. This area is called Abana Tubani, and there are about 10 bathhouses there. In fact, Tbilisi was built on top of thermal springs. The water that comes from the ground contains sulfur, and it's around 40 to 50 Celsius. The legend goes that once the king of Georgia discovered the sulfur springs when he was out hunting. He decided to build a city around them, and that's how Tbilisi got started. Actually, in Old Georgian, Tbilisi meant a warm location.
Oh wow, parking is difficult, I know.
This church you can see from every part of the city. It's called the Holy Trinity Cathedral, commonly known as Sameba. It is the main Orthodox church of Georgia, and it's located across the river from the Old Town. Another historic neighborhood is Metehi. It is sitting on the elevated cliff that overlooks Kura River. This neighborhood is home to the Metehi Church, which dates back to the 12th century, and the statue of King Vakhtang Gorgasali, who erected this church and the fort, which served also as the king's residence. During the Soviet times, the communists wanted to demolish the church, but luckily, due to local protests, it survived. While driving around the city, I was always able to see this amusement park sitting on top of the mountain, and I was trying to figure out how to get there. Well, turned out there are several ways. You can take the funicular, or drive through the picturesque hills of Tbilisi. Because I had a car at my disposal, I chose the latter.
Looking at this, it's hard to guess that we're in Tbilisi. we could be somewhere in the Mediterranean. Easily. But there's a stela. It says Tbilisi.
The park itself is just an average Soviet-era amusement park. Mostly for kids and families. Might be a little boring, but it feels comfortable and you get great views. And there's still some cool rides like this one.
I don't know what the deal is with the park, but there's no people here. Maybe it's just too early. Maybe the season hasn't kicked in yet. Who knows? Because it's warm, the weather is perfect, but there's no people.
Attitudes towards the legacy of the Soviet period are complicated. Most people have strong anti-Soviet sentiments. There is even a museum of the Soviet occupation. But surprisingly, some people are still nostalgic about the Soviet times. The Soviet era has left some interesting buildings. The most famous modernist building is the building of Ministry of Highway Construction that was erected in 1974. But of course, most buildings from the Soviet past are nothing too exciting, just endless look-alike gray apartment blocks.
Excuse me, how do I get to Rustaveli Avenue?
Rustaveli Avenue. So you can go like this.
This way?
Yeah, this way. So this is our bus which goes to the Msketa. So you can go like this and straight. This is Rustaveli Avenue.
All right, thanks a lot, man.
The central avenue of the city is Rustaveli Avenue. Here you'll find street musicians, street artists, restaurants, and crowds of people. It's a popular place for parades, protests, all kinds of political activity, and celebrations. Here you'll find the building of the Parliament of Georgia, Tbilisi Opera and Ballet Theater, legendary School Number 1, also known as the First Classical Gymnasium, Rustaveli National Theater, Museum of Modern Art, Liberty Square, many hotels and restaurants. So let's go for a walk. Georgians are pretty conservative and religious, like most people from this part of the world. 83% of the population practices Eastern Orthodox Christianity, and every attempt at holding a gay pride parade has not ended too well. In fact, they started a Family Values parade on the same day as a response. Another popular avenue is Agmashanabeli Avenue. Part of this avenue is totally pedestrian, and here you'll find a lot of renovated old houses, hotels and hostels, open-air cafes and whatnot. It really feels like a piece of Western Europe right here in Tbilisi. Although the city is old, there are still some modern landmarks that we can take a look at. Bridge of Peace across Kura River. It was built after the Russian-Georgian War in 2008. This is Presidential Palace. It was finished in 2009, and it was built in the 19th century neoclassical style. Do you see that unique eye-catching building in the distance? Many people are confused what it is, but it's called Music Theater and Exhibition Hall. There are no super tall skyscrapers in the city yet, but there are some high-rises like this hotel, which was constructed by a Royal Emirati family from Abu Dhabi at a cost of $140 million. This building is called House of Justice, and it's considered the largest of all justice houses in the world. They say all the paperwork like buying or selling an apartment or a car can be done in less than 15 minutes. Georgia was able to minimize bureaucracy, and that's really remarkable. In case you're driving, there's a large parking lot behind the building.
If you guys looking for some parking in the center of Tbilisi, come to the House of Justice parking lot. There's plenty of parking spots in here. First 45 minutes is free, and the rest is also very affordable.
This one's called Big Bicycle Monument. It's a giant bicycle sculpture that was erected at Rose Square in 2011. Strangely enough, I haven't seen too many bikes on the roads. I wonder why. Traffic gets congested during rush hours, and the way they drive might seem pretty hectic. But the locals say that it's gotten better since they installed all the CCTV cameras all over the city. Drivers can get pretty emotional, and some of them can easily lose their temper, like this driver in Honda. This building is the train terminal, and the area around the train terminal is probably the least tourist friendly. Not too clean, not too well taken care of. There are endless underground shopping areas that offer low-end clothing and other goods, and they're just so long that you can easily get lost in them. I actually had to ask for directions to get out. When it comes to public transportation, they have a subway with 2 lines that provides 9 million rides per month. They also have buses and minibuses. Unfortunately, trolley buses and trams stopped their operation in 2006. I recommend renting a car. 20 minutes of driving and you find yourself in a completely different setting, admiring the sunset and feeling the warm wind and enjoying the green landscapes. You can visit some monasteries in the area, like this one. It's called Dvary, and like everything around the area, it's pretty old. It was built in the 7th century, and this place is just a 15-minute drive away from the city. It's sitting on a hill near the confluence of Kura and Aragvi rivers. It's a nice place to unwind, for sure. Have you ever heard of the Sea of Tbilisi? That makes no sense, right? Because there is no sea around Tbilisi. Well, it's not a sea, of course, it's just an artificial lake, and they're planning to develop this area into a recreational park with various sports facilities. Right next to it, you can visit Chronicles of Georgia. It's a monumental structure by Zurab Tsereteli, a famous Georgian architect and painter. It's an interesting art object surrounded by green hills. In fact, it's such a picturesque place that it's worth coming here just for the views. Now let's talk about what it's like for the locals to live in the city. Salaries are pretty low. According to Numbeo, the average salary is around $325 a month. Not a lot, but it's also one of the most affordable places to live. Everything's cheap and it's really safe too. Most gas stations have international food chains like Dunkin' Donuts, Wendy's, so Americans will feel right at home.
And if you're hungry for some burgers, you gotta go to Wendy's. I used to work at Wendy's.
Tourism has become one of the priorities, and new hotels are popping up all over the city. For $30 or $50 a night, you can get a surprisingly good deal. I was staying at this hotel. They had a nice sized swimming pool and a great buffet for breakfast. But if you're traveling on a budget, you can find some hostels for $20 a night. I was staying in one of those, and let me show you what it's like.
So in Tbilisi, I've rented a car. It's a Toyota Prius. I guess the most difficult part is finding parking spots. So park correctly, but last night I got a ticket. And as I figured out, you gotta have a parking permit here. But then the renting company also said that I'm good, I'm covered. So I'm hoping I'm gonna be okay.
Crime rate is very low. Day or night, I felt really safe. Also, it might sound too good to be true, coming out of one of the ex-USSR countries, but the police do not take bribes. They also have some cool cars like Ford Mustangs and Ford Taurus Interceptor, which they received together with police force training as part of the collaboration with the US. Although Tbilisi is certainly not a place for muscle cars with all the winding narrow streets. You can't imagine Georgia without wine. There are lots of wine cellars all over the city. They say there's more than 450 types of grapes that grow here. You can easily spend a day trying local food and tasting wine. In short, it's a foodie's paradise.
Okay, let me try then.
Yeah, please. Churchilla.
Churchilla. Very good.
Yeah, this is hurma. Yeah.
Okay,
Have a nice day.
you have a nice day. Thank you so much.
You can try eggplants, hachapuri, hinkali, shish kebab, churchilla, and so many more local delicacies. Also, you can buy all sorts of fruits and berries for a fraction of the price that you'd pay elsewhere.
Одно ведро стоит 25-30. А за какое время вы это все вот собрали, скажите?
Вечер.
За вечер все собрали?
Да.
А сколько урожаев за год получается?
3 тонны, 4 тонны.
3-4 тонны?
Это один семья.
Tourism is booming. In 2018, they had 1.8 million international visitors. And they come from all over, Americans, Europeans, Russians. Even though Georgia has parted ways with Russia politically, Russian tourists are still very welcome. Delicious food, great weather and beautiful nature and hospitality. You get the whole package. They even have casinos if you're into gambling. Tbilisi is very different. Some parts are really modern and some parts look like this. Narrow streets with inner yards and clothes hanging everywhere. Other parts of the city are like this. Modern residential areas with apartment blocks similar to those you find in most post-Soviet countries. I was told that in some residential buildings you have to pay every time you use an elevator.
These are modern apartment buildings.
What about individual homes? There are plenty of those too. Let's drive around a suburban neighborhood.
So peaceful and quiet. We are in the outskirts of Tbilisi. There's some really nice houses. These are really impressive. Nice. Just checking out some neighborhoods.
Houses are nice, but the roads are pretty much non-existent.
That's football court. Awesome. They even have seats for spectators.
Tbilisi is a great city. Today it's home to many foreigners, and the number of foreigners living and working here is on the rise. And so is the number of international schools, businesses, and expat communities. In an effort to reduce road accidents, you'll often see a car flipped upside down along the road, as a way to say, don't forget about the consequences of reckless driving. Alright, hope you guys enjoyed the video, and there'll be more videos coming. I have not been able to travel much this year, but I'll make it up in the future. So stay tuned, and I'll be back with new videos. Thanks.